Hi, my name is Jack.
My name is Jamie.
And we are Queers Against the Patriarchy.
In the middle of November, I spent a full day in Copenhagen, Denmark, where I met up with this lovely couple.
My name is Jamie. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm assigned female at birth and identify as transmasculine.
My name is Jack. I'm also known as Jaxie because I'm a drag artist. I am brown, I'm queer, I have ADHD, and I'm also gay.
We met about a year ago. We met up on a night when you had a drag job, and we were all going to the same bar. You were in drag for the first part of the evening. And
yeah, that was so weird because I'm not used to people flirting with me when I'm in drag, and I was wearing a wig and I was wearing this unicorn full bodysuit with tassels, and it was just so weird for me. Then we bonded a lot on just queerness and being able and willing to communicate and just talk about being queer and just having a lot of things in common there.
I think we've also each had over the last maybe 5 years or something a sort of queer awakening a little bit. Yeah. And I mean, we've been queer for a lot longer than that, but just this, starting to understand things like intersectionality and how we're marginalized and how we're privileged and all these things. So was something from the beginning, from the time we met, we've talked a lot about how do we learn to be mindful of our own privileges, and how do we learn to understand our own marginalization, and how do we support each other, and what is community, and how do we support each other in the community. And it's something that for me, when we started talking, that resonated with me a lot, that we could talk about those things, because there's a lot of the questions and thoughts and doubts that I had myself.
And these discussions have been continuing through the year they've been dating.
One thing that I know we have in common and that I think about a lot is just living in a body that is political and politicized.
Yeah.
Because everything we do, both of us as queer people, but you as a brown person and me as a white trans person, it's all political and it's all politicized. So I feel that there's been a lot of ups and downs for us, personally, individually, over the last year, for instance. And every time we struggle as, ourselves, as a brown queer person or as a white trans person, it's political, because the reason that we struggle is political. And every time we succeed, our success is also political. So every time something good has happened, it's anything that happens to us, good or bad, it's always political.
Jack thinks about another thing that they have in common.
I think we also both have had some experiences with being dehumanized. I think that during this time, we've both had to learn how to navigate our energies, because a lot of the experiences we've had has been us saying no to discrimination in one way or the other, and then people, they sort of dehumanize us. Every time I open my mouth, there are so many reactions to me being a self-advocating queer brown person. If I call out, not call out, but mention a systemic racism, a pattern of racism happening, then they are oh, this is about us. Let's victimize ourselves and make Jaxie a villain. And that has been so exhausting. It takes up so much energy from just being able to live and breathe as a queer person. And it's nice because I feel we understand each other in that way, because we both have a lot of reasons to be upset, and at the same time we don't want to be victims, but we just want to navigate through it with a constructive approach and maintain the positive energy that we have, and protect the essence of who we are, rather than being completely drained. You know what I mean? It's so exhausting sometimes.
They both have similarities and differences that they have to navigate.
We go through some things that are the same for us, but we go through a lot of different things. You go through racism every single day, and I go through transphobia. Even though we don't know each other's experience, a lot of the time our own experience is the best framework for understanding each other. So like, for instance, I'll never know what racism feels like on my body and my being, but when you talk about it, I find a lot of the time then my experiences with transphobia are like my best reference for understanding it. And I really like value in our communication that I think we're both good at, like perspectivizing, if that's a word.
Like us sharing our perspectives.
Yeah, and I get a lot out of that. If we talk about, for instance, transphobia, and then you just share your thoughts about like what racism feels like for you, even though it's not the same thing, I feel like we learn a lot about each other and about ourselves from that communication.
Yeah, because it's the same structure. It comes from the same structure anyways. It's a system, and it's hurting all of us in different ways, and we all want to stop it. We all want to be happy. We all want a society that is intersectional and has space for all of us, where people are raised to see us as equals, where people, they don't confuse inclusion with representation, you know, where we are all just people that are welcome on the planet on equal terms.
And it helps that they've got each other.
So it's nice to have this little space where we can just talk about things and remind each other that our feelings and experiences are so valid, and that we are not alone because we have each other.
We talk a lot about the feeling of like queer loneliness too, that even though we know like we have each other, and we also know that we have like some people that we can genuinely call friends that are there to support and love us, but still, you know, sometimes it is very lonely to be queer, and it's lonely in the community, especially if something happens, because the violence that we meet in different ways and that queer people meet, it's also meant to isolate us, and it's meant to make us feel singled out and alone, and like we have nothing and we have no community and we can't fight back. And I think that will always, like, you know, once in a while that will just hit you. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that. Then it's always like reassuring to be reminded that, well, you know, you're not alone. We have each other, we have our friends, we have our community. But it's just something that I'm becoming aware of, that even with the best community, even with the best relations, you know, it's just the way that violence is meant to single you out, it really works.
These are some of Jack's thoughts about racism.
Like, I can talk from my own experience and say that every time I'm sad or hurt, the narrative is that I'm angry and not sad. And when I say no, when I stand up for myself, then I'm aggressive. And it's only when I'm truly silent that I'm allowed to take space on their terms. And it's just something we don't really talk about. And in extension to that, also the whole thing about when I tell basically white people whether they're queer or not, I often experience that if I mention racism, they're more focused on the fact that they're called a racist rather than what they're actually putting me through. And then it's more about their feelings. Like, it's like they're kicking me, but we have to talk about how much their toe hurts from kicking me rather than the pain that I'm going through while I'm just laying down on the ground. Even though that's not the case, it's still the dynamic, and it's something that I'm using my voice to address because it's something that nobody really thinks of. Like, why would you think about that? Like, if you subconsciously believe that Black, brown, indigenous people are more aggressive and you never clock it yourself, how can you know? So of course we have to talk about these things because it's a structure that I have not been aware of for so many years of my life. I had no idea how people saw me. I thought I was just like any white person, you know, it's not like I have black skin, but I'm like, my features are not white Caucasian, and I'm not like, I'm mixed. I have a lot of different heritage in my body, and it's something that I definitely had to learn, and now it's something that I want to share with people, so maybe the conversation can someday become normalized, because it's not normalized right now. We don't talk about the fragility. quite yet.
Jack describes that these are the same structures that men have used to oppress women for centuries. But it seems like most cis women haven't learned from the history.
Now that there is more equality, they're using the same method of suppression to tone police us queer people. But if they could understand that, if there was some interest for them in working against the structure that has suppressed them, like imagine, like that would be fierce. But I don't know. Yeah. But it's also like I say that like of course that wouldn't happen, because we're not working towards intersectionality. We're working towards, like, cis women. I feel like we're working like with this white feminist structure that is more about, they're working towards us becoming like a cis man, getting the same power positions as a cis man. So when they white cis men, yeah, true. And then when they get that, then they're just suppressing further down on the stairs. And the same with white gay men. White cis gay men, they didn't work towards intersectionality with the old pride. It's all about, oh, gay pride, let's liberate the gays so they can suppress queer people. And, you know, like the whole group of like intersex, trans, people with physical disabilities and neurodiverse, everyone, they're basically just doing the same because we're not working towards an intersectional structure.
And we, within the queer community, really have to make sure that we do work intersectionally.
Even if you think you're doing good, even if you genuinely think you're doing good, I think it's just important, this whole like, to be mindful of like not speaking on other people's behalf. Like I definitely see people claiming to create safe spaces that apply to you and me, and I can only speak for myself, but when a person who doesn't share my marginalization at all is trying to claim that they create a safe space for me, it's not a safe space for me. Like you can't create a safe space for anyone else on their behalf. You can't create a safe space for someone without consulting them.
So now that we've pointed out some of these structures and established that they're harmful to all of us, how can we work towards getting rid of them?
Like genuine willingness to listen, I think, goes a long way, but that's not the same as saying that good intentions are the solution. I think like education, like really education information from like diverse groups of people and not just from one lecturer who think that they can teach everything on their own, but we need to listen to each other across like our identities and marginalizations. And we also need to understand that we're all being manipulated. I mean, you know, it's like, it's in all our heads, you know, like the structures and the racism, the transphobia, the fatphobia, the, you know, homophobia, whatever, like we're all affected by it. And I think we need to look at the structure and how it's messing with our heads and try to like get there together and not believe that certain other people are dangerous or harmful or something, but they're just other people and we need to listen to them.
I definitely also think that communication is key and willingness to learn. And I think that queer people having several platforms to entertain and be a voice is definitely also one of the steps we're already taking and that we have to continue on taking, where we can advocate for ourselves. And as it turns out, people, they are noticing and they're appreciating that we are doing that, because we find out that there are actually so many people around us that are so lonely and that just want to belong, and they don't belong and they don't feel like they belong. And the fact that we can build a community is something really powerful in terms of bringing us in a direction where we can be a strong voice. Like, there are people that are noticing the structure, they are noticing that it's like the emperor's new robes or whatever it is. Like, we're basically praising the dumbest, most dysfunctional structure, which is like the structure made by white, cis, skinny, able-bodied males that are constantly suppressing us. And for what? So they can sit on the top and be pretty much useless
They're just greedy. They're just taking everything away from society. So it's like, why are we so suppressed by them when we are so strong and we have such strong voices? We're queer people. Like we're almost forced to train ourselves to improve our rhetorics and sharpen our wit because we know that we have to do that to be heard. So we're just such a strong group, and hopefully we will grow, and hopefully that step will lead us to the next, which is to be the right people, for example, in the administration of the individual pride organizations around the world, where it's like, why is it a white person that has to talk about how a brown person feels included? Why is it a cis person that has to talk about how trans people feel included? Why are we still using the 6-colored pride flag? Like these kind of things, we need to start talking. People need to know what's up. They need to know what Pride is 2022. They need to understand that Pride is a demonstration and also a party, but we're celebrating because we've been working for 11 months for the next Pride. You know, that's what has to happen. And yeah, I hope that will happen. And I believe in that too.
Jamie also manages to find hope in all of this darkness.
In spite of all this bullshit, I think there is that queer joy, and there is a joy in community, and there is a joy in like being unapologetically yourself. And personally, I feel at the end of the day, I feel really happy and really proud to be a trans person. I feel proud of my community. I feel proud of the trans people who fight the hardest, which are Black, brown, indigenous trans people. And I think we can get there together if we truly like listen to each other and lift each other up. At the end of the day, I think that's what gives me a lot of hope and joy in my time of need.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time.